hello, my babies and my YouTube family. I am back, honeys. We having spiritual Sundays now, 3 p.m. live. Okay. But I will say, since next Sunday is Father's Day, we will be taking that day off to spend with the family. But yes, from now on the regular, every Sunday at 3 p.m., it's Sunday afternoon spiritual tea time with me, the Rev. And my show is still sponsored by my company, Indigo Psychics, where you can get yourself fresh roasted to order coffees and every flavor organically done, and also loose leaf teas. We have 7 artisan blends to choose from. Not only are they great cup to have with to relax or wake yourself up in the morning, but also to use for your spiritual works or give as offerings to your gods, to your goddesses, to your saints, to your ancestors, your Loas, the Orishas. I've had people from all walks of life and spiritual paths and religions tell me that they are all been fabulous in tasting and also accepted as special offerings and with the natural ingredients and intention put into them, banging, especially them coffees for the spiritual work. But well, you know that we got coming up the strawberry moon coming up. It's going to be the lowest hanging moon of the year, and it's the last moon of spring. And it being in Sagittarius, babies, this moon coming up is letting us know that we need to let go of the fears. We need to figure out what dream long ago that we had, especially like from childhood, that we always wanted to do, but because of fear and everything else, you know, we stopped ourselves. Well, this is a time to take advantage of it and let go of those fears. Um, Lavidia, you are not welcome here. I do not like clout chasers. You sponsor my enemies. So do me a favor and go fuck yourself, okay? And never be on my channel again. Excuse my language, y'all, but just block and delete this person real quick. I don't like clout chasers. I may be a popular loner, but if you support somebody who has been well known to cause harm to me or anybody in the spiritual magical community because of me, do not expect me to like you. Okay? That's it. All right? But, anyways, but as I was saying, with this final moon of the spring, known as the strawberry moon, because it's known for this time of year where the ripening and the sweetness of the raspberries and everything. Thank you, baby. Miss Patty says, you go. Um, it shows you, what's ready to be harvested both in nature and in our lives. You know what I'm saying? So, under the Sagittarius moon, this lunation it becomes more of a spiritual wildfire because Sagittarius is fire sign, igniting that passion, that creativity, making us to be honest, especially with ourselves, our relationships, whether they be intimate, family, friendship, or whatever, you know, and with that fire, fire is expanding. And so it's telling us to expand our creativity and our visionaries, of what it is that we want to do with ourselves. Become more focused. Start writing a list. Whatever it is that helps you, do with your, journaling, spells, whatever. But the thing is, it's asking us, what truths are you ready to live out loud? Because a lot of you been in that hermit mode in Sagittarius moon saying, time to, I'm coming down. I want the world to know. You know what I'm saying? In the mighty words of Diane Ross. It's time to stop hiding, especially you chosen ones. I know it's your duty and everything to help folk and everything, but humanity, because the way they can be ungrateful and all that stuff makes you feel jaded. But unfortunately, it's still your calling and everything. So think about it. What dream have you outgrown the fear of pursuing? So this is saying a call of action. Okay. So some, rituals to help manifest this, go out stargazing, set your intentions in the open sky, or you can write down and burn it. Use that element of fire with Sagittarius and everything, especially burning down and getting rid of your limited beliefs that's keeping you from that delicious life you're meant to pursue. Because 99.9%, it's us. We are our own worst enemy. That's what's keeping us. It's not outside influence. A lot of us want to blame it's other people or somebody's doing this, somebody doing that. No, it's us because we don't think we're worried, you know, or excuse me, worthy of living that life that we deserve because of that lack mindset. Whereas lack about money, lack about love, lack about confidence, lack of whatever, you know. So you got to do that shadow work and use this to let go. Okay, my babies, you know. Also, too, learning to love and appreciate new places and cultures, through books, films, traveling, because a lot of us, are gatekeeping about cultural appropriation and all that stuff. Learn to really study a culture before you act on it, before you act like you know on it, you know, study about it. As I say, the sociology of it, how they ate, how they practice spiritual things, how they were in ancient times, how they dress, every little aspects about them, and then respect and follow what it is about it and everything. Because there's nothing wrong with you practicing of another culture as long as you're doing it in the right and respectful way of doing it. Just half-ass willy-nilly and just picking and choosing and doing what you want. That's disrespectful. Okay. So if you are going to practice a certain spirituality or religion of another culture that's not of you of this lifetime, please, people, do it in the proper and respectful way. Because I totally get it. Reincarnation, it could be part of a past life, or, and you were part of that culture, which has been proven for a lot of folk. But also, too, like me in my situation and everything, I have adoptive parents. And I have several, adoptive ancestors from my adoptive family who claim me as their own, especially from the Native American side and everything. So please, people, come with an open heart and open love and open respect. Again, open respect. Okay. And like I said before, people doing the journaling, you know, doing the vision board, use your social media and everything as the vision board and all that stuff. Oh, hey, baby. How you doing? New Nine Natural says, beautiful day to you, Rev. Thank you for joining me, baby. Um, speaking your truth, even if you got shaky voices, listening to the frequencies that help regulate out your vagus nerve and everything, especially in the throat. One good way to tell people, because I am a natural health coach, so I know what I'm talking about. If you can sit there, I want you to swallow 3 times in a row. And if it's difficult to do it in a row, that means your vagus nervous system, because of stress, especially because of trauma stress that you have locked down on your subconscious, is affecting your body. It's blocking the throat chakra. So listen to whatever frequencies that help reset the vagus nerve system and also unblock your throat chakra so you can speak that truth. Because babies, anytime any of our chakras or anything are blocked, if you do your research, you'll see in those areas it will manifest as physical ailments. A lot of us people have problem with thyroid problems, throat cancers, if we're not speaking our truths, especially if it's a familial curse and everything, because everyone's, afraid to talk about the narcissists and the pedophiles or whatever that run in the family, abusers that run in the family. Don't be afraid anymore. Be the black sheep. Time to break those curses so you can be the best and beautiful person you deserve to be in this life. You know what I'm saying? Also, too, if you can and the weather permits, because we're going almost into summer, and for a lot of places we have beautiful weather going on, build a bonfire, put on some of your favorite music and everything, and dance. One of the best offerings to a lot of gods and goddesses and ancestors is the gift of dance. It's giving of self, giving off that energy and building up that cone of power, you know especially when you can be out in the woods getting both naked. Woohoo! Luckily I live in 5 acres and nobody can see my fat ass. We're gonna have some fun. But if need be, if it's bad weather, do it by candlelight. Strawberries, red, strawberry scented, candles, strawberry incense. And also, too, strawberry is good for besides bringing in love, it's also good for hex breaking and also brings good luck with games of chance. So bring yourself some strawberry incense before you go to the casino if you're going to the casino, coming up soon. Also, two, share a deep and heart expanding conversation. Like, remember I said, throat, clearing up that throat chakra. All right. No more biting down. No more dimming your light. No more worrying about, oh, I'm afraid. So what? You're not responsible how what your the words say trigger somebody. That's on them. Okay. So if you speak your truth and it triggers somebody, it's don't worry about it. That's their problem, not yours. Still speak your truth, no matter how hard it is. Okay? Because as you speak your truth, the ones that are not supposed to be in your way will get triggered and fall away, and the ones that do will be like the honey to the, a bee to the honey. Okay? And also, two, be adventurous. Sagittarius are known for that. So definitely say yes to something you've always wanted to try, like you said. And that helps you in general move past the fear. So if you can move past the fear of trying something new and adventurous, you can do other things in your life that you've always feared to do, you know? And also, too, a lot of you and everything, especially during full moons and all that, especially with like with the topic we're talking about, with the solar flares that's been going on, CERN popping off and everything. So it's going to be amplifying this moon even more of what we're going on with all this element of fire. So definitely, a lot of you, your intuition is on fire, as I say. Stop having doubt. Okay. And if you do have doubt, you can come see me at indigopsychics.com, and and we'll decipher what's going on. Or my guest that's here, Reverend Eshu Morningstar, you can always contact him, and later on he'll tell you how you can contact him as well. But yeah, don't allow yourself to be walking around in all this confusion. There's always somebody like me, or like my guest that's coming on, that can help you decipher about what's the clarity that you need, so you know that you're going down that right path and everything. So this moon is to remind you, you're not meant to play small babies. Okay. You're meant to expand. You're meant to explore. You're meant to embody the truth of who you truly are. Okay. Especially my pride babies. Yeah. And people have asked me why I haven't, on my business or my personal page, have you looked at the emblem of my Indigo Psychics? It's a psychedelic rainbow coffee cup. Hello, with a rainbow freaking butterfly. I shout it every day. Okay. And it's not because of sexuality, but it's to know that we are all inclusive, not, you know, whatever we claim to be. And it's also a calling to my rainbow warriors, my indigo babies. You know who you are. Okay. So let this be your moment to rise. So to help me talk about, like I said, I know a lot of you have been getting all these crazy downloads and everything, and we've been having these solar flares and all that stuff. And to help me talk about it is my dear friend, originally from New Orleans, but now via Minneapolis area, my brother, Reverend Eshu. How you
Hello,
doing,
everybody.
baby?
Oh, I'm doing really good this time around. So I've been taking my break like I said I was. So dealing
Yeah.
with some health stuff, but I'm getting back out there again. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. That's for sure.
Oh my goodness. I know, like we talked about it before, and that's the reason why we're talking about with this solar flares. I know the ascension
Yeah.
flow has been like a motherfucker going
Oh
on,
yeah.
especially
Okay.
with
Yeah.
the
It's been like
2G force.
it's been everything in chaos, but at the same time, it's been making sense for me because I've been getting all of these downloads, and then suddenly it's been making me click with everything. But earlier when I was saying, and I was making fun while we were talking, and I was saying if I have to hear somebody say take their power back one more time, the reason why it was because there's no solution to any of that. No, it's just like, oh, just take your power back, but that can mean so many things. But when you're also sitting in your power, it is chaos. It is something that's going to bring a lot of pain too. People think you're going to be taking your power back, you're going to be in a grandiose feeling. No, these solar flares have been beating us down. We're stepping into our power, but seeing the darkness and the ugliness. And that's actually what you're enduring and getting out of it. And that's why, everything that you were saying was actually just that. Was that like just a minute ago when I was listening to you? I couldn't have said any of it better myself. But this time with these types of downloads, a lot of people are suddenly starting to remember things, and they're thinking, oh, well, am I going crazy, or is something happening here? No, go with it, because when you're not fighting it, it stops being chaotic. It's a form of not submission, but surrender. And then, that pain that you're going through when you're accepting your power, it becomes sacred, and it starts to become something that even saves you at that point. It's got to take us down to our knees so therefore we
Yeah.
can build ourselves back up.
Oh,
And that,
amen. That's why
mm,
during this time and everything, people don't realize every time we have these major flares and stuff, it causes a timeline collapse, and especially with
exactly.
certain folks, that yodel 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 hoo in the middle of freaking Europe playing with some big old hydro machines
Yeah, exactly.
built on top of old temples with
Hmm.
Shiva the Destroyer in front of it.
Yep.
You know, not thinking that they forget there's folks like us that are still realizing what's going on, and
Hmm.
you know the NPCs of the world are not going to notice. They're just
Yeah.
going to go with the flow and everything, But we
There's
start having major, huge Mandela effect and
exactly.
everything. And then also too, because of like having those flu, like the pressure of the head,
Right.
body aches, because what's happening is your energy from the old timeline hasn't caught up with you in this new timeline, and
Right.
you're doing that. That's why I recommend during this time, whatever it is according to your spiritual belief or tradition, to please work on that grounding. If it's good
Exactly.
weather, go outside, go do earthing where you walk around barefooted out in the ground, go sit by a tree, go hug a tree, something out in
Hmm.
nature. Or if need be, if it's bad weather, take advantage of your sleep and uses your subconscious and start listening to the different various frequencies and everything for grounding,
Hmm.
you
And
know?
that's just it. Like, I mean, even if you're somebody that's really busy, like during the week, I'm very busy because I do my 9 to 5 job right now. And during the lunch breaks, I have to go outside and ground by laying out in the grass, just so therefore I can finally get all of my energy back and finally focus on my clients again.
Yep.
Because just like when I was reading tarot cards, I'm doing a caseworker work, management work right now, so it's almost the same thing when you're dealing with all that energy. You're so absorbing that stuff. So you got to do that. As above, so below. Remember that
Amen.
you're grounding and finally getting yourself back into that position. Because this is, I mean, and this isn't going to be one of those situations where what you did before will always work. You might have to mix it up. You might have to be challenged to step out of your pattern. And also, what might be working for somebody else, it's not going to work for you the same because it does hit us individually. So this
Yes.
is just why grounding in your power, knowing what these things are really actually are happening, and why you might be seeing something. Is it something? Like where you're seeing a negative, where you're getting the painful flashbacks, or you're experiencing something? Pay attention to why you're happening and at the time that it's happening, because once you can get past that, you're also getting a download at that point. So that's another situation. And this is all speaking from personal experiences when
Right.
these things would happen. But then when this also came and hit us the way that it did, this is really one of those situations where I wasn't even used to it for the first few days because I was sick. I was actually in the bed thinking that I was dying. It felt like I was hungover and I don't even drink anymore. And
Yep.
so that was just it was nasty.
Oh,
So
I believe
believe me, and that's why when I can tell people this and instructive, it's because I did this and I had to go through it myself just so therefore I could be sitting here. And then as it goes along, because what I also did was go back to old roots in my old pantheons that I haven't done for a long time and really reconnected back with those things again, because that was my thing. Was I lost major spiritual connection to a lot of things because of a lot of the tragedy that was happening in my life these last few years. And now that I'm finally in this position, it made me face my trauma. So, but then everybody having to face theirs collectively, that's another thing. You can listen to the collective on this one because we are collectively knowing this. So even if it's just to know you're not crazy, it's that
exactly.
situation where you're finally being able to open back up spiritually again.
Oh yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, whether you like it or not and everything, especially the ones who have been so suppressed and everything between either, societal things or what they've seen, through programming, through, their little devices and all that other stuff,
Hmm.
are now having, like I said, the pineal gland go pop, and now the spiritual gifts are opening up and everything. And you know because a lot of us, we were, very gifted as children, but the world suppressed it because, trying to tell you you're crazy. And now they're coming into it and they don't know how to handle it. And that's why you see, especially a lot of our younger generation, being put on schizophrenic meds and
Right.
locked up in the asylums now and turning left and right and everything, because you know they're still not wanting to recognize that the mind, body, and soul is all intertwined. And
Yeah.
if you do not have proper training of spiritual gifts, especially someone who hears, sees, speaks, with the other side, if you don't have that proper training, malevolent things are going to take advantage of you, you
Right.
know?
It can
And so,
drive you crazy and it can kill you even. It can get pretty dangerous, especially if you're somebody that was raised in a very oppressive household, like a religiously oppressive. You're going to
yes.
be attacked like left and right, and it's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
get you sick. And yes, then you do get possessions, and that's just it. But then you also have to realize that if things are fucking with you, thieves aren't breaking into an empty house. So there's obviously something in you that you definitely do need to pay attention to,
Oh, yeah.
nurture, and grow.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You're
because
you're drawn
otherwise,
to that light,
right.
like, working in with a lot of, both as an adult foster care with people on the spectrum and also with parents who are children on the spectrum, real
Hmm.
seeing, the spiritual aspect of it. And another reason why I have them work with the lavender and everything is because of their pineal gland being naturally more advanced than ours. They're literally walking keys to the spiritual side. And
Oh yeah.
so any place they go becomes haunted. And it's because that, they are haunted because they're drawn to their light. And that's why we need, especially teaching the parents and everything, how to spiritually, defend through spiritual warfare to protect them, to keep those malevolent things away. You can't be complacent. It has to be a part of the daily routine, doing spiritual things, making it, if you need be, especially with children and everything, make it a fun game and adapt
Hmm.
it to whatever their spectrum is and everything, so that you can keep up the spiritual protection, both for the adult or the child, and for you and the people of your home and everything.
Exactly.
Like the home I was working in and everything, child, I was an overnight person. And if I did not anoint and spray that house down with lavender spray and cleaner and everything before I would lay down and everything and all that stuff, child, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would be woken up by the main one spirit in the house wanting to talk. And two, there was a spiritual vortex in the house and
Oh
everything. But
yeah.
yet, we couldn't talk about any of the paranormal stuff that was going on in the place and everything, but yet, especially Miss Margaret, she was this lady that lived in the house when the home was owned by another company before they were taken over by the one I used to work for. And
Hmm.
Miss Margaret would let herself known by opening up cabinet doors in the kitchen, opening up the front door, and there was no big trucks going by or anyone bumped it, or I mean no one's near it, and all of a sudden you hear this click click and it open up by
Hmm.
itself. Like the first time when I first started working there, when she introduced me, I usually the girl that was training me would be there before me, but happenstance I had gotten there before her, so she said, "Go ahead, let yourself in." So
Hmm.
anytime I had to go in first and no one else was home, um, the house key is in a lockbox by the front door. They never lock the deadbolt, only the bottom lock. So
Right.
I would unlock it, just pop the door open because you got to put the key back, lockbox and everything before you can go inside. I go inside, and as I'm going in, mind you, like I said, I never touch the deadbolt. I look at the deadbolt, it's sticking out. I go, what the fuck? I turn around to go to shut the door, and I go close it, and as soon as I click, all of a sudden it hears like a little laugh, and I look over and I see Miss
Oh.
Margaret, blonde hair lady with the Down syndrome and everything. Oh, hi, Danny. Danny Chin says hi, all. Thank you for joining us out there in California, honey. San Francisco in the house. Woo woo. But yeah, it's definitely with this, everything that's going on with these solar flares. A lot of you, like I said, amp up your intake of water, not
Oh
just
yeah.
cold drinks, actual water, preferably the pH balanced alkaline water, and
Right.
if you can get a pure copper cup and be drinking with that, if you can't, get yourself some colloidal copper. I'll say it again,
Hmm.
colloidal copper, and put a few drops of that in your water before you drink it and everything, because we are electromagnetic magnetic beings, and that copper will help you conduit those energies a lot smoother and everything
Mm.
than, because a lot of us, like you were saying and everything, you literally are, especially when the major flares hit us, you literally are, it feels like you're getting hit by an energetic Mack truck, a lorry,
Right.
just pulling you over, you
It is
know.
not fun. It feels terrible, and
Yes.
it's yeah. Mm.
And
But
that's why it's
no.
so important to make sure you're doing your grounding, drinking, staying hydrated, if need be, even if it's, you can't literally go to sleep, if you can listen
Mm.
to it in your earbuds while you're working or whatever, find the frequency. You can look them up. Just say,
Yeah.
Google it, say frequency that helps with grounding the best, and it'll list all the frequencies and everything. Pick one that, works well. Here on the YouTube, you can find all kinds of videos for it,
Yeah.
from short ones to long ones and everything.
I mean, I
Yes,
do the saddle. I do the sail
water.
winds all the time. So
Yes,
yeah.
coconut water is one of the best things to be drinking. If you can't, because I know that a lot of places alkaline water is expensive. Just get a good old fashioned coconut water. Okay,
Yeah, those are $1. Like you can get
yeah,
those anywhere. So yeah,
it's
those are easy.
nature's IV, and it's also been proven that the contents of coconut water is very similar to our blood plasma and
Hmm.
everything. They actually, during World War II, when they ran out of regular IVs, they were using coconut water in the IV bags, as
Oh
hydration.
wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know that one, but yeah.
I'm a bit of a nerd. They call me the walking encyclopedia.
I mean, in some areas I am, but that's not one.
Well, as
But
a
yeah.
kid, I got stuck being in the library a lot and everything.
Hmm.
Mama, and daddy would drop me off, and I would have to go do my book reports. Remember back in the day when they had things on film and
Hmm.
everything and all that kind of good stuff?
Oh
I would
yeah.
get my homework done within like the 10-15 minutes and be there and everything, and then spend the rest of the day over, reading on my favorite subjects. And of course, 99.9% of it was in our little itty bitty occult section. You're lucky to
Oh
find
yeah.
anything because,
The one
growing up,
three three point nine section, I believe. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah. No, that was what I was. I was one of those kids too. I mean, that's how I learned because I was 9 years old. It was the '90s, and then I would go to used bookstores, I would go to libraries, and I would find all these books that I didn't even know were so valuable until I got older. And then I finally was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that I was learning advanced magic at that point. And
Hmm.
so, I would find them even in like the most unlikely of places. Sometimes you would even find them in book exchanges. So,
Yep.
and
They
that's, hmm?
also thrift stores as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like we had to be resourceful back then because you couldn't look it up on the internet, and it wasn't so easy to talk to other people like us back then because, well, people were usually very defensive. I mean, it hasn't really changed much now, but with just more of them, but still, you know.
Well, us older generations and everything on back, we were raised, and it's from Europe to Africa to Native American to,
Mhm.
Asia and everything, depending on the tradition. But 99% of them back in the day was shh,
Very secretive
no, to
because,
dare to
well,
be silent. You did not say no. Like, for instance, from my Puerto Rican side of the family, we got palo mayombe. Back
hmm,
in the day and everything, if you were to talk to someone who was non-initiate, they would slit your throat.
yeah, no, it was one of
Talking
those things.
now you got people bragging left and right about all this stuff and everything, but
Oh
yet
yeah,
you can't find a proper book on Palo Miombe
yeah.
because it's meant to be an oral tradition.
A lot of these were oral traditions, like the closed practice stuff. You're not going to hear about because that's another thing. They're very protective of the stuff that you cannot, that they don't teach and aren't made available. And if they catch you writing a book, they cut off one of your hands or they kill your ass. So
Yep.
that is another thing. So, but that's it. But so the stuff that we know though, that's not the closed practice. Anybody can know, can honor these spirits. Anybody can do in that. You can light some candles on certain days. But when it comes to the closed practice stuff, you either wouldn't hear about it or you do not hear about it at all. There's a lot. There's still belief systems we don't even know about that are out
Oh,
there. So.
tell me about it. I
Mhm.
just recently had certain very, very high ups and everything. And the way because some of them are frauds, trying to
Mhm.
take advantage of everything. But the way you know it's a true invitation is when they have gone on every form of your social platforms and personal email, both personal and business, and it's from the same person.
Right.
And it's like, you know what I told the yellow hats again? Fuck
Yep.
you.
Mhm.
I literally told the lady, why would I join a group who's been trying to get rid of me and my bloodline and several other bloodlines for thousands of years?
Oh
You
yeah.
literally have your stuff. That's the reason why you have looking glass and everything. So, and these DNA things, there is the reason why they want to collect it because they're trying to find out where we're at.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
we're the ones who are going to disrupt their stuff. They have a major thing that they want to do in 2023 and everything. And especially if you guys have the M's on your hands, you are the chosen. We are meant to be the disruptors of this,
Oh yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, I got them on both hands, and it's just it's and that's what when I was doing my palm readings, I was having to explain that to everybody. And
Mhm.
so it was one of those situations where this isn't a choice; it is literally embedded in your DNA, and that's
Exactly.
why you have to be very careful. And that's why we had to be doing it in silence. But now, another reason I kind of like the fact that people are going around blabbing about it is because now there's so many of them, it would be hard to discern. So therefore, it's one of those situations where, yeah, I know that they have to do those DNA kits and everything else like that now, but that's just it. They still can't find everybody now. That's what I
Yeah.
do like about
Oh,
this.
yeah. That's why I allowed people in my family and everything to do the tests and stuff. And since my brothers and sisters, and I have the same DNA, we have the same parents. I
Mhm.
know, and both their tests came out with the same percentages. I know if I was, I would have the same thing, but I know better than to do my
Yeah,
name, if you know what I
I
mean.
still haven't done that.
But
But
just
yeah.
remember, people, if you do have the M's on your hands, that means you are a natural born manifester,
Mhm.
master manifester. So you need to make sure, even in joke, because your body cells don't know the difference of a joke. Okay,
Yeah.
you need to check how you're talking over yourself because that self sabotaging talk is what you're going to manifest. So if you keep on saying life is hard, you're going to manifest that it's hard. If you keep on saying you're broke, you keep on saying that every person that comes in your life is a piece of what or this or that. Everything negative you say is what you're going to manifest. You literally got to step outside yourself through self discipline and say, "Oh no, we ain't going to speak this.
Yeah, you
We
have
ain't
to
going
be
to speak
very
this."
careful.
You
Because
know.
I could have saved myself years of problems if I just knew that what I was dealing with when I was younger. Because that was not fun. Because when I had to realize I had the M's in my hands, it was a little bit too late. By the time I had already did all this damage to myself. But it was one of those
Well,
situations.
you had to go through that for a certain reason, honey, so you can
Oh
be
yeah,
the
I know.
veteran that you are, so you can help people through that same thing and show them the healing techniques you used and all that kind of good stuff, that actually work instead of, it's like, hey, instead of putting all these toxic, medicines
Exactly.
and pills and everything that only mask the problem that don't go to the core. You and I, the reason why healer like us are hated by Western medicine because we get to the core of the problem. Okay, this is
Yeah,
what the
that is
problem is.
true.
This is what you need to do mentally, emotionally, and physically to heal it.
And
May
that's just it. We
may
had
take
to
a
go through the
lifetime to get
darkness
done,
too.
but still, it's the whole point is making that daily effort of wanting to do it.
Right. And having
Yes,
to
it's
go through
more
that
important
darkness and
to
take
have
that
those
step.
mystic M's.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I was saying going through the darkness and going through those steps is partly why we do know the things that we do, and also it's part of the things that woke us up to our abilities and taking our power back. And that's exactly what it is. Sometimes you
Mm.
have to be on the brink of death and knocking on that door for you
Well,
to
because
be able
we're
to wake
stubborn.
back up.
Because we're
Mhm.
such old souls, because everyone who
Exactly.
has the M's, we know this ain't our first lifetime. This ain't our first rodeo. Like I've talked about it before, as we're
Mhm.
learning about the spiritual things that we do, a lot of us are having like deja vu moments. Like, and then it's like, oh, okay, I've been doing this all my. This explains why I've been doing this. Oh my god,
Exactly. And
because
that's
you're
just
actually
it.
learning everything.
And it still hits me even now. Like even
Oh,
after the major awakening, I
same
still
here,
have
baby.
times where it's just
I'm
like,
gonna be
oh
50
yeah.
in January, and I still have it.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, okay, that explains. You
Yep.
know.
42 in 2 months, and I still have it. It's like it sometimes as if I just woke up yesterday.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you feel like throwing some cards?
Oh yeah, I've been playing with them the whole time.
Nothing wrong with that. So
Yep.
guys, if you want to put your questions in the comments there, we'll start, throwing some cards for y'all.
Mm. All right, moving my phone. There we go.
But while we wait, as for the collective and everything, especially with, the timeline collapsing and all that stuff, like I said, a lot of you're going through that rebirth, okay?
Hmm.
And because it's preparing you, because that's, as they say, before especially big things in your life manifest, it feels like your life is falling apart, it's turning the crap. It happening for a reason, because you're stubborn behind, won't let go, because you in your comfort zone. It's time to realize it's time to come out of that comfort zone. It's time to come out of the cocoon and spread them wings, let them dry and fly, baby, so you can soar, and have that growth and be that beautiful, person that you deserve to be in this life.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to pull. I'm just going to do these three because I'm not doing a full reading because it is interesting. I got three major arcana. But we got the one magician, which is talking just about that. The way that you finally ascend is finally descending first, because this major lesson that we've all had to go through. It is a position where it's making you actually endure a lot, so you finally realize you were never really overreaching. You were actually not reaching high enough. And this is a position where you're finally springing forward from the wisdom of the Hierophant. And that's just it. You're waking up that inner spirit of you. And even though it seems so small, it's a lot bigger because it puts all of this into perspective of what you manifest. That was kind of the major lesson. And then we have the temperance card, art card in this deck. And that's why you actually are starting to see you have to come into acceptance with your duality. That's the only
Amen.
way to the divinity is to finally
Yep.
accept your duality.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. Our first question is, she's wanting to know, New Nine Naturals asked, I'm asking about my career and more on my spiritual gift, gratitude.
okay, let me pull. All right, I'm doing three on you too. Okay, right now you're actually in the position of the moon, though. What that is representing is not even at a point of loss. This is actually a time of sacrifice. With the sacrifices that you've been willing to finally make, yes, you're on the right path with your career, but that's a position where it's not so much about having gratitude, you already have that. It is more just finally, okay, you don't have to be humble at this point. You've been humble all this time. You have to finally actually be willing to go out and make those sacrifices so that you can actually even get more, because sometimes you deserve more than you're willing to give yourself. And this is exactly why you cannot settle. So this is a position where I'm looking at Seven of Wands. That's what makes more sense right here. Because when you've seen a major burden on all those things for all these years, it was because you were making other people happy. This is a position where right now your happiness needs not only be coming first, but it actually should have been in the first place. So
Amen.
financially, you're going to be in a position where you are going to get abundance, but you have to be more selfish with it because you recently lost a lot of things because you were being too open and too nice with certain people. And this side of you that's making you accept just part of your darkness is that it's not darkness at all. It's called self-preservation. So with the moon. I hope
Oh
that
yeah.
makes sense, but yes.
And it does make a lot of sense because I got forgiveness in the territory card and everything.
Ah,
So the main thing besides forgiving of others is the thing is forgiving of self and everything, and stop beating yourself up for the energy you gave. You had to go through that lesson so you know how to handle those energetic type of people and everything. So when those type of people do come around again, you have no problem putting up the boundaries and learning to say no. Because I keep on hearing from spirit that you had a problem with feeling boundary guilt, if that makes sense, and everything.
yeah.
But she says that's the Virgo in me. Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe.
I mean, I'm a Virgo too, so I totally get that one.
Yep. So definitely, definitely, you know,
Hmm.
learn to like, because that's the main thing about forgiveness is about letting go, out of sight, out of mind. Do whatever type of ritual you need to do. Write the person, place, thing, whatever it is. Mindset. Write it on a piece of paper. Like I said, use it. Like I talked about earlier. Use this full moon coming up, Sagittarius fire. Burn it away, release it, send it away. And so you can keep moving on and moving forward, and stop dwelling in the past. But when the past does come up, see the wisdom from those situations so you can take that wisdom and help others who are going through that situation similar that you've been through in your life. Because I strongly believe as a spiritual minister, and I know my brother Eshu feels the same way, you need to be a walking testimony you
Yes.
know
You have to be. You have to lead by an example, and that's another situation. You have to be willing to be like your weakest at that time. You have to be willing to actually lose everything, because once you finally lose everything, you finally have everything to gain, and you actually sometimes need to give yourself that fresh spot, start again. The nine of wands right here is talking about that because it talks about accepting your power like we talked about in the beginning. But that is just it. Being in your power does not mean that you're going to have money, success, and all these other things right away. Sometimes you don't get that. So coming into your power is knowing when you actually have had enough of something, but also at the same time when you're willing to rebuild from that and endure. It's a situation where those things where you have to make it stronger because there's only one other way it can go, and you have to turn those disappointments into something else. Transmutation. That's what this whole thing is.
Miss Beth, with your situation, okay, I know you are predominantly right-handed. That don't mean nothing. When it comes to energetic energies, the right is for casting out,
Right.
and left is for receiving. And the reason why you have that M on your hand is to receive your manifestations. That's why, yes, obstacles come. Don't concentrate on the obstacles. What do we say to ourselves? The solutions I need to overcome the situation will come to me easily and effortlessly, and keep on repeating
Hmm.
it to thyself. And because that's what we need to do. We don't remove the physical thing. We change the energies, and the obstacle removes itself. If that
And
makes
what
sense.
And once you say it with the conviction and not just with belief, but knowing that that's what's going to happen, then you are in the manifestation. When you're talking with doubt, especially when you're someone with the M on your left hand, especially, you cannot have doubt and fear when you are trying to manifest something.
Yep,
You
that
can't
self
say
sabotage.
you can't say I hope this works if this works. You're saying it's going to work. And that's the thing. You have to be it with conviction and you got to mean it. So
Yep.
that's just it. Because us people, when we have the M's on either hands or both hands, you have to be careful because your words are your spells. And that's
Amen.
why you have to also be kind of, so you have to be careful what you're telling yourself and what you're telling other people, because yourself on the inside, the only hears what, the only thinks you're talking to you, and that's just it. You have to watch out what you're giving other people. You got to watch out how you're projecting everything. Everything is a projection, and that's
Oh,
why you have to make sure with that projection it's your reflection. So it's a very powerful thing, but that means it can be a pain in the ass too. So
oh
that's
yeah.
the other thing. Yeah.
Because that's like you said, you have to constantly keep. I mean, even Bruce Lee said so. Don't
Mhm.
joke negatively over thyself, because your body literally does not know the difference. Negative
No.
energy is negative energy, and everything that we say or think, it gets embedded on the subconscious, whether you realize or not. From the stuff
Exactly.
that you watch, the music you listen to, and everything, you know, especially like us folks, that do like the hoodoo and everything. We use music as a part of our spells and all that stuff besides
Exactly.
gospel, but also we use secular stuff as well. You use it, to, like, if you're doing like love spell, using some kind of romantic music and everything. There's plenty of good, conscious music out there that helps with manifestation and everything. I'm brain farting on the name, but it's on here on YouTube. And she does all her manifestation songs, like old school blues and R&B from like Motown type sound and everything, which
Mhm.
I love, because when my mama got really religious, anything after 1970, I wasn't really allowed to listen to, because it was so secular and everything. Like
Right.
before 1970, if you listen to the music, no matter what genre it came from, it was that played on the radio was very innocent sounding. You know what I mean? And so that reminds you of that stuff. So,
Exactly.
if you're constantly listening to stuff that's negative, that, talks about negative about relationships, about being broke or whatever it is, it's going to manifest in your life, you know.
Exactly.
That- So it's all about that programming of the subconscious and everything, because there's plenty of good music out there that you could, like I make playlists for myself. I have one that has on my personal playlist on my YouTube channel, where it has the different money emojis, and it has from country to R&B to hip hop to reggae, but they're all associated about positive things about having that money, living that luxurious life. Manifestation comes to me easily and effortlessly. And having do that for yourself and everything. Make yourself little playlists where they are strictly whatever it is that you, so that when you during the day, when you can't take a nap or lay down and go to sleep, to use the subconscious, put a playlist on, slap them earbuds in if you can't listen to it out loud, and go about
Mhm.
your day and do what you can. But I do forewarn, though, when you're doing like frequencies and stuff, a lot of them are very relaxing, so don't be
Mhm.
driving and listening to that stuff, okay?
Right.
Like if you're sitting in your office, or you're sitting there,
Mhm.
doing about, you're like cooking and everything, you know, or whatever, putting around the house or what, do it that way, and everything. But yeah, if you're running heavy equipment or driving, don't do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that you don't want to get too relaxed. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Because that's the main problem with a lot of folk and everything, is that it doesn't. I know it's a Christian saying from down home, but it really, it's talking about mindset in general. It's pray it up and walk away and meditate on the word. Okay.
Mhm.
And what that means is that you do your ritual, whatever it is, whatever, your vision board, whatever you're wanting to manifest, put those intentions and stuff out there. Stop trying to control the how, when, and where of the outcome. Okay. That's
Mhm.
the, you have to allow the energy to do its work. You can't plant the seed and expect the fruit like that. I'm sorry, magic really, it does not work that way. That's not reality. I wish we were like Hollywood and everything, in the movies and the TV and everything. We could bob your head, twinkle your nose, or wave a wand, and instantaneously things happen. But unfortunately, that's not real life. When it comes to majority of the things that we're trying to manifest, you got to put in the work. But the thing is, you can only light so much incense and so many candles and everything. If your mindset it's not in the right place and everything, especially on the subconscious level, and you're coming from that lack mindset and you're having that self-sabotaging talk going over, guess who's canceling out what they're trying to manifest? You are. Okay.
Exactly.
Like the saying goes, 99.9% of the time we are our own worst enemy. Like I had a
Exactly.
baby years ago, one of my students out in Las Vegas sent me a candle. I mean, that child, it was a 7 day vigil and it was blacker than my scarf. Okay, from top to bottom. Oh my God. Oh my God, Bram. You see, look, someone's throwing at me. And one of my specialties is I can read the energies off of pictures. And I'm looking at this picture of her kid. I said, child, and ain't nobody throwing at you. It's you. It's your negative mindset because you're trying to control the how, when, and where. I mean, how many times besides you doing the other work? You think, and she didn't know I would find out, but you've gone to 7 other practitioners to do spells on this situation and everything, and you wonder why it's not manifesting. It's you who's blocking it because of the control thing, because of the trauma response, because you refuse to work on the healing and doing that shadow work to release that stuff, because you're the one who's keeping yourself from your best life. Nobody outside of you, but automatically they want to think it's somebody else, you know. New Natural says, I was telling my friend that singing also helps to throat chakra healing and manifestation. Yes, it does. That's why when certain things, especially on Sundays and everything, I'm playing my gospel music and everything, especially the old school kind that we used to use for the hoodoo and everything.
Hmm.
Especially like when I'm cleaning my house, I play that song. There's a leak in this old house when we gonna move. As you're moving all the negative energy out and everything. You know, so definitely, start taking advantage of it. Do that singing. Also, too, dancing. You know, I know some of us when we first wake up, we're not the greatest morning person in the world, but after you've gotten a little energetic and everything, put on positive music that's going to make you feel good about yourself and the day. Like everyone always, oh, Mondays suck. No, Mondays don't suck. It's your mindset. So if you keep thinking Mondays are going to be a crappy day, guess what it's going to be, people?
It'll be a
Okay.
crappy day.
Exactly. So you got to make yourself to refuse to think that way. And the main key is that self discipline. The main key to self care and self love is that self discipline. True royalty knows how to check themselves. We're all human. I do it too, but I know when I catch myself. Wait a second, girl. We ain't gonna talk to no. Okay, what? Okay, let's find something to listen to associated with. Get rid of that intrusive thought. Put my anointing on. Let's have a little talk with Mother Nature. Drink some cup of tea or some chamomile tea, and forget about it. And keep moving forward. So you're not sitting there focusing on that negative intrusive thought. There's nothing wrong with feeling it, but don't sit and dwell in it. Because some of y'all like
Exactly.
to do that just for attention. And then you wonder why you got all this negative BS going on and depression going on and everything.
Mm.
Because you're
Uh,
inviting more of that bullshit in.
and one thing is, I even went through that myself when I was doing the drugs. I believe me, I was one of those people who just sat in my shit, and I was wondering why all this bad shit kept on happening. And then I finally looked at my behavior, and actually, that's partly why I look at my stuff on Facebook from years ago and don't get rid of it. It's because sometimes I need to remember how much of my own worst enemy I really was. And that's just it. We can do that sometimes. The world is a mirror, and our spirits hear us, and that's another thing. Not all of our spirits have our best interest at heart, so you're letting these ones in too, and you're just letting anything in here messing up with you. And
Yep.
yes, maybe that stuff is talking to you first, but that's another thing. You are reacting, you're responding to it, you're letting these things happen. And it's not so much karma as it is a clapback. It's just
Yeah.
a cause and effect.
Yep.
So,
That,
that's
and that's
my.
why you constantly got to step outside of yourself and catch yourself in the things that you're saying and everything.
Mhm.
And I tell my baby straight up, either having me as a family member, friend, or as a teacher, and I see you on your social medias self-sabotaging with your talk and everything, even in jest, I will call you out on it. First, I'll be nice and get you in DM and say, baby, huh,
Mhm.
but if you keep doing it, I will check you like Medea does a rotten child. Okay, and I'll put my foot in it.
Exactly.
And it's not because I'm trying to be a bitch, it's because I know for a fact you are self-sabotaging yourself, and I know you have the power to manifest what it is you truly want. And child, I ain't gonna let you fuck up. But if you keep doing it, then I'm gonna let you go. And then I'll act like I don't even know your ass. Because one of my
Oh,
biggest pet peeves is people who have the nerve to constantly complain and be negative about every little thing in their life, but won't get off their spiritually lazy ass and do something about it. Now, it's
exactly.
one thing if with me as a teacher and as a friend, is that if I see that you're putting in that work, but you're still hitting them obstacles, then yeah, okay, let me show you some things. Let me help you and everything, because sometimes you need that extra power. You need that little extra oomph and everything to help you through your situation. But if you're not going to try at all, don't come crying to me. You know, they come to you and they get all that advice. You tell them what you, and one thing you have to learn about someone like me, I don't give advice physically, spiritually, whatever type of advice without doing it for myself. I don't, teach anything. I know it's not going to work. I know it is going to work because I have done it for myself. And I know if you do apply it and put in that work, it will happen. But if I see you are not putting in the work and you have the gall to come back and bitch and complain, I'll be like, shut the fuck up and get out of here. You know what I mean? Pentaki, I don't want to talk to you. You're just an energy vamp. Go away. You know? Ain't gonna play no more. So, babies, make sure you are putting in that work. All right, especially during these times that are coming up. And
Exactly.
seeing what time it is already, we just have so much fun together, child. Please let everybody know how they can get a hold of you if they want to come to you for a session.
Okay, you can find me on my Facebook still. That's going to be Wes. That's going to be Wes Armistead Eshu, and then also my Facebook, not my Facebook, my Instagram is Sow the Soul Divination. So you'll be able to find me right there. I'm actually pretty easy to find these
And like I've always said before, and everything, um, if you need in-depth reading, first time callers, when you get a hold of me through my company, indigopsychics.com. If it's a per minute session, your first 3 minutes are free. And also, I do have a 30-minute session that you can do for well. And also, we have chat too.
days.
And I also same with chat. If you're a first time person getting a hold of me through my company at indigopsychics.com, your first 3 minutes is free as well. So definitely, um, you can find it right in the description and everything. Definitely, um, Eshu, find him, like I said, on Instagram and in the Facebook and everything. Um, Definitely, everyone, please, during this time, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, doing what you need to do, grounding and everything, and just go with the flow. Stop trying to let these energies use you. Use these energies to your benefits. Okay, babies? I
Mhm.
love you guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And like I said, I won't be here next Sunday because of Father's Day, but officially starting afterwards on that 22nd and everything. And on Sundays at 3 p.m., we have spiritual Sundays here on the YouTube. Okay. So please, babies, enjoy yourselves and stay safe. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And thank you, Ashley, for coming, baby.
Not a problem. You all have a good night, and I'll see you soon. Okay.
Good night, everyone.